Philippines committed to remove the vessel from Ayungin Shoal, but the government says otherwise. More political parties, including those that produce the country's past presidents, forge an alliance with the Marcos-Duterte tandem. This as the ruling PDP Laban party clarifies there are no plans just yet for Senator Bongo to withdraw from the presidential race. And this former Philippine-based journalist just got lucky. She got a front row seat, literally, to a crosswalk performance at the Korean boy group BTS in Los Angeles. The government makes it clear there is no commitment to remove a rusty World War II vintage vessel from Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine Navy deliberately ran the BRP Sierra Madre aground in 1999 after China occupied the nearby Mischief Reef in 1995. The ship is the only thing that is keeping China from occupying the shoal. But Beijing claims the Philippines long agreed to pull the ship out. Tristan Odalo has more.
The Defense Department refutes China's claims that the Philippines commits to remove BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal. In a statement, Defense Chief Delfin Lorenzana says that BRP Sierra Madre has been on Ayungin since 1999 and the government should have removed it if there is any commitment. Lorenzana insists that Ayungin Shoal is within the country's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. The country also maintains sovereign rights in the area through the UNCLOS and the Arbitral Tribunal's 2016 ruling favoring the Philippines. The defense chief accuses China of trespassing. He also says the Chinese have no business in the West Philippine Sea. On Wednesday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry demanded that the Philippines honors its commitment and remove BRP Sierra Madre from Ayungin Shoal. Beijing added that the resupplying mission was only allowed due to, quote, a special arrangement and out of humanitarian considerations. In a forum on Thursday, Lorenzana maintains the country's position on Ayungin Shoal, while retired Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio says that China is bullying its Asian neighbors and emboldened by its Coast Guard law.
That China is bullying its smaller neighbors in the South China Sea. China's new Coast Guard law brings back the world to the turbulent era before the 1945 UN Charter, when the armed force or war was a legitimate means of acquiring territory or settling disputes between states.
The West Philippine Sea is our main concern. China remains aggressive in asserting its claims in the South China Sea, seriously challenging our interest in the area. I told the Chinese ambassador that no one can prevent us from doing what we have to do within the West Philippine Sea, where we have sovereign rights by international laws.
This is not the first time that Beijing talked about a certain commitment allegedly made by the Philippines. China also made the same remarks in 2014 but was disputed by the DFA. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
In a series of tweets, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin echoed President Duterte's remarks at the recent summit with China and other Southeast Asian nations, condemning Beijing's recent attack on Philippine boats and urging the Asian giant to exercise utmost self-restraint and adhere to international law. Lawmakers and aspirants strongly rejecting China's demand to remove the BRP Sierra Madre from Ayungin Shoal. Senator Grace Poe says China has no right to dictate what the Philippines can do within its waters. She describes Beijing's statement as another, quote, display of utter arrogance and aggression that we must not take sitting down. Re-electionist Senator Joel Villanueva also says trespassers have no right to issue an eviction order. Meanwhile, presidential aspirants believe the Philippines should not withdraw its outpost from Ayungin Shoal. Vice President Leni Robredo insists the shoal belongs to the country, and this fact is not debatable. Senator Ping Lacson wants the country to strengthen its presence in Ayungin Shoal, saying if elected president, he will order the refurbishing of the BRP Sierra Madre and send another ship there. Lacson also insists having a balance of power among other countries will best serve the interest of the Philippines.
Hindi naman ito subject to opinion kasi meron ng ruling. Meron ng ruling yung arbitral tribunal. Kaya nga lagi nating inuulit-ulit na kung covered na siya ng ruling ng arbitral tribunal, hindi naman tayo kailangan makipagdebate. Klaro na bahagi ito ng ating EEZ. At yung meron tayong sovereign rights over dito, dapat yung enjoyment ng resources doon ay exclusive para sa mga Pilipino.
Ang kailangan doon, ma-prevent natin yung war, pero kailangan merong balanse. hindi yung isa lang yung nambubuli at yung maliit na bansa lagi nabubuli. So yun, nando tayo ngayon at yun ang aming direksyon ay pupursu. Kailan palakasin natin yung ating alliances through bilateral and multilateral agreements sa mga bansa na pwedeng, na may sariling interest din, ano?
Another aspirant, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, says if he were commander-in-chief now, he would encourage all fishermen to go to the disputed waters and send Navy and Coast Guard ships to protect them. Well, after admitting that he may still withdraw from the presidential race, Senator Bongo issues a cryptic statement saying this may not be his time. Go explains he has been hesitating over the past few days after following the decision of President Duterte and the ruling PDP Laban party for him to seek the presidency. He also cites dirty politics but did not elaborate. The senator says he is committed to public service but adds, quote, "Sa ngayon, baka hindi ko pa po panahon," unquote. He hints at making a sacrifice for the sake of the president and their supporters. Earlier, Go said supporters, particularly in the Davao region, are torn between him and another candidate. Go had been saying he wanted Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte as his running mate, but the presidential daughter chose another aspirant, former Senator Bongbong Marcos. Go is running under the Federalismo ng Dugong Dakilang Samahan, or PDDS, an ally of the PDP Laban. Leaders of both parties say it is normal for candidates to feel overwhelmed or entertain the thought of backing out. And Go, they say, was just being honest about it. They add there is no plan B for them at this point, as they expressed full support for the senator. Four political parties backed by some of the biggest political clans form a so-called uni team for the Marcos-Duterte tandem. Rex Remedios reports it includes parties that produced former presidents.
More political parties are now supporting the 2022 tandem of Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte. Among them, the Puwersa ng Masang Pilipino or PMP and the Davao Region-based Hugpong ng Pagbabago or HNP. They are joining Bongbong's Partido Federal ng Pilipinas or PFP and Sara's Lakas CMD party. The coalition is called the Uniteam Alliance. PMP is the party of former President Joseph Estrada and son Jinggoy, who is eyeing a Senate comeback next year.
Kaming tatlo po ay pawang mga anak ng presidente. Hindi na po talaga maalis sa aming kamalayan, sa aming dugo at sa aming mga puso ang makapaglingkod sa ating mahal na bayan.
Former Presidents Gloria Macapagal Arroyo and Fidel Ramos, meanwhile, are Lakas CMD stalwarts. Ramos founded Lakas CMD 6 years after leaving the Marcos regime at the height of the 1986 EDSA revolution that toppled the dictatorship. House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez says Ramos himself gave his blessing to support the tandem.
First step pa lang ito para maipasasama-sama natin lahat ng mga tinatawag kong like-minded political forces. Ibig sabihin, dito kami sa administrasyon. This is the beginning of the process. Siguro, basta't maipatuloy natin yung prosesong yan, yung nakikita nating medyo magulo sa eleksyon, sa kampanya, sa politika, mag-stabilize din yan.
As your vice presidential candidate, I am proud of this agreement that powerfully illustrates leadership transcending throughout political colors. To PFP, Lakas CMD, PMP, and HNP, there is no turning back.
We have yet to clarify with Marcos what he meant when he said they are on the side of the administration. No less than President Duterte recently criticized Marcos, calling him a weak leader and a spoiled child. The Duterte administration is also backing Senator Bongo's presidential bid. For now, the tandem will be talking to more national and local political parties to gather more support. A significant and necessary step to sustain their momentum, with Bongbong leading the last SWS survey and Sara placing second in the VP race. But in a country where political alliances and memberships are fluid and sometimes fragile, can the Uniteam Coalition bring the much-needed actual votes for Marcos and Duterte come Election Day? Rex Remedios, CNN Philippines.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and his running mate Dr. Willie Ong test negative for illegal substances. The tandem voluntarily underwent the drug test at the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency headquarters this morning. This after President Duterte claimed that one presidential hopeful is using cocaine. Other presidential and vice presidential hopefuls earlier underwent drug tests, including the Lacson Soto tandem. Marcos and Sara Duterte also submitted their own negative drug test results to authorities yesterday. The first petition against Bongbong Marcos's presidential bid heads to pre-conference on Friday, where lawyers of the opposing sides will meet in a virtual hearing to discuss details of the case. The Commission on Elections Second Division will facilitate the proceedings, which the body expects to be brief. The division recently rejected the appeal of petitioners led by lawyer Theodore Te against the week-long extension given to Marcos to respond to the plea to cancel his certificate of candidacy. Te said it was not allowed under COMELEC rules, but in her order, Commissioner Socorro Inting says COMELEC can provide such relief in, quote, the interest of justice and speedy resolution of the case. Co-watchdog Contra Daya meanwhile cautions against providing special treatment to Marcos, something the COMELEC denies.
Kailangan naging fair, ano? So kailangan siguro sagutin niya ng COMELEC. Bakit ganoon? Matatawag na ba yung special treatment?
The second division saw that there was a need to resolve this issue rather than postpone it to a later date. There's no special treatment there, and in other cases, it has been done.
Marcos faces 4 petitions opposing his presidential bid. Meanwhile, the former senator seeks to declare his opponent, Tiburcio Marcos, as a nuisance candidate, saying his candidacy mocks the electoral process. All cases have yet to be resolved. Next on Newsnight, with a drop in COVID-19 cases, can the Philippines now say it has contained the virus? The Department of Health says not just yet. And a news anchor in Los Angeles gets an up-close view of K-pop sensation BTS in the most unexpected time and place. We'll be right back. Philippines, a day after recording an all-time low in daily COVID-19 infections, the country again reports less than 1,000 new cases. The Health Department logs 975 fresh cases today, bringing the nationwide tally to 2.83 million. Recoveries rise to 2.76 million, while the DOH records a total of 47,875 deaths, with 193 more patients dying of COVID-19. It is the 9th day in a row that daily fatalities have gone above 100. The positivity rate, meanwhile, is at 2.8%. The country has kept the figure below 5% for 13 straight days. If it is sustained until tomorrow, it means the Philippines has put COVID-19 under control, according to the World Health Organization. But for Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire, it is not yet time to declare the country has contained the coronavirus. Vergeire says the DOH is coordinating with the WHO to identify the process and factors for disease control. She also cites past cases where the country experienced surges after bringing down transmission.
Marami pang uncertain sa nangyayari sa atin. So kailangan natin ng longer period to assess and to evaluate what's happening. Kailangan din natin makonsidera meron pong iba't ibang settings at iba't ibang sitwasyon ang bawat regional area natin. So maaari na ang NCR, mataas na ang bakunahan dito, tapos ang ating community response has been intensified. But if we compare to other areas in the country, some of the areas in the country, mababa pa rin ang pagbabakuna. Nakikita pa rin natin na kailangan pa natin tulungan ng local governments nila for them to intensify their community response. At saka pangatlo, kailangan handa ang health system kapag nasabi natin na nakakapag-control tayo ng isang sakit. So, kailangan pang pag-aralan maigi, further studies, further evaluation, because a lot of things are very uncertain at this point.
Health Chief Francisco Duque earlier said he will ask the WHO if they can declare the containment of COVID-19 after 2 weeks of maintaining the positivity rate below 5%. The World Health Organization issues an appeal as more countries roll out COVID-19 vaccines for minors. The WHO says it is less urgent to immunize children and adolescents compared to health workers, the immunocompromised, and other adults. Experts explain this is because younger people tend to have milder disease unless they are in a group at risk of severe infection. Experts ask nations to attain a high coverage in the primary series vaccination of adults first, pointing out the current global inequality in vaccine access. The WHO also has another dire warning, this time with the devastating fourth COVID-19 wave across Europe. Last week, 60% of all reported cases and deaths globally were once again from Europe, but it could suffer another 700,000 fatalities by March, according to the WHO's forecast. The agency urges countries not to rely entirely on vaccines as rollouts have stalled in parts of the continent.
The sheer number of cases is translating to unsustainable pressure on health systems and exhausted health workers. In many countries and communities, we're concerned about a false sense of security that vaccines have ended the pandemic and that people who are vaccinated do not need to take any other precautions.
The WHO stresses the need for a vaccine plus approach, meaning people should still practice mask wearing, physical distancing, and washing of hands. The agency estimates over 160,000 deaths could be avoided in Europe if 95% of the population wore masks. Now, in the United States, despite appeals from the WHO, an expert is putting premium on boosters. That's as the country also sees a rise in infections and a possible new coronavirus wave. CNN's Britt Conway reports.
We're seeing an uptick of cases.
New COVID-19 cases have been on the rise for about a month, nearing an average of 100,000 a day over the past week. But does that mean this could be the start of a new wave?
You know, it is conceivable that that is going to be the case.
In part because of timing.
Cold weather, people going indoors, vaccination potency waning.
By December 17th, the CDC's latest ensemble forecast predicts thousands more will be hospitalized that day, between 4,100 up to more than 12,000. And by December 18th, it predicts the total number of deaths will hit between 794,000 and 822,000. Based on where the death toll stands now, that could mean between 20 and 48,000 more Americans will die from COVID-19 over the next 3 weeks.
But we can do something about it. We still have about 60 million people, adults in this country, who are eligible to be vaccinated, who've not gotten vaccinated.
So the vaccination push continues, along with the push for the fully vaccinated to get boosters. And one expert believes boosters could make the biggest difference.
Increasing the rate of protection for those who are already protected, but giving them that extra boost, I think that will have a shorter and quicker impact than getting the unvaccinated vaccinated.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
In Russia, President Vladimir Putin tests an experimental COVID-19 nasal vaccine that is not yet in clinical trials. This is Putin's fourth shot in total, which he got just days after receiving his booster dose. Putin volunteered to test the nasal spray vaccine, saying he, quote, did not feel anything after immunization. But the developer, Gamaleya Center, admits the vaccine's efficacy is still being tested. Back here at home, a former presidential advisor, Michael Yang, files a petition before the Supreme Court seeking to nullify the arrest orders and lookout bulletin against him amid his alleged involvement in the government's supposed anomalous deals with Pharmaly. The petition argues the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's arrest orders lack legal basis. It likewise says the Bureau of Immigration's lookout order against Yang was issued without any criminal charges filed in court. Yang's camp also wants the High Court to stop the Senate panel's inquiry into his records and properties, saying it is in clear violation of the businessman's rights to privacy.
What is happening now is that the Senate is now making it a spectacle. For whatever purpose, kayo na po mag-isip. Pero yung pong mga tinatanong na punit nila ay no longer in aid of legislation.
Senator Riza Ontiveros, for her part, vows the panel will not stop its investigation into the government's pandemic spending. She maintains the oversight powers of the upper chamber are well settled in law and jurisprudence. In other news, the long wait is over. Swedish home furnishing brand IKEA finally opens its biggest store in the world right here in the country. The store, located in the Mall of Asia complex in Pasay City, is 68,000 square meters big, which is the size of 150 basketball courts. They earlier opened their e-commerce site at ikea.ph. It is in this website that you can also book your visit to the store. The branch is only accepting a limited number of customers a day for now as a precaution against COVID-19. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, updates on the rest of the members of Blackpink after main dancer Lisa tested positive for COVID-19. And still on K-pop, an anchor in Los Angeles is lucky to be caught in traffic with an exciting K-idol sighting. Details when we return. Welcome back. Amid its issue involving pole vaulter EJ Obiena's finances, the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association says there's no need for the Philippine Sports Commission to mediate. Speaking to CNN Philippine Sports Desk, PATAFA President Philip Wico insists that, quote, no one is fighting. He says they only want clarification on the report, claiming Obiena did not compensate his coach, Vitaly Petrov. Wico also says the governing body is only following its mandate to investigate the matter.
In aid of policymaking ito, even in aid of legislation, ika nga ng mga mambabatas. So, gusto lang namin maliwanagan. Sabi ko, masama ba magtanong? After all, kami naman ang mananagot dyan. Hindi ba? Kami mananagot sa PSC at sa COA.
Obiena and Petrov have both denied the athlete failed to pay 85,000 euros or 4.8 million pesos in coaching fees to his Ukrainian mentor. In K-pop, after Wednesday's news of Blackpink member Lisa catching COVID-19, their agency assures fans that the rest of the group is free of the virus. K-pop idols Jennie, Jisoo, and Rosé tested negative under RT-PCR tests, YG Entertainment said in a statement. It added that Lisa is in very good condition with no symptoms, and it will continue cooperating with health authorities in their efforts to prevent the virus from spreading. Meanwhile, fans of another K-pop group might want to switch places or at least car seats with this KTLA anchor. Former Philippine-based journalist Cher Calvin got an up-close view of BTS performing Butter for James Corden's Crosswalk musical. Calvin said she was driving to a restaurant when, in perfect timing, she caught sight of the K-pop group. There, as you see on that video, this was followed by a live performance right in front of her car. That just happened, Swet and Ishera. Fans in Los Angeles still have a chance to see BTS perform live. The first of 4 in-person permission to dance on stage concerts is just 2 days away. And before we go, Filipino Marvel fans get an exclusive treat with Eternals hitting the big screen earlier than expected. The much-awaited adventure action film is set for an early limited release in select theaters in Mega Manila. Screening will run from 6 p.m. on November 29th until November 30th. Eternals features a team of superheroes who lived long before Iron Man, Captain America, and other Marvel icons. It's set to premiere nationwide on December 1st. Here's CNN's David Daniel with a look.
We have helped them progress and seen them accomplish wonders.
Eternals have nurtured humanity for 7,000 years.
We have never interfered until now.
Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao went from indie films to the MCU.
I had to pitch for it, and we both have to look at each other and go, there's something about what you're offering we really want. And that's when I have the project.
Ajak, played by Salma Hayek, leads the team.
I had given up on the hope of Marvel noticing that I existed, and it was just amazing.
The diverse cast includes Lauren Ridloff as the MCU's first deaf superhero.
I love that my deafness is not seen as, a driving point to a story. It's just, it's just an asset.
And Kumail Nanjiani as its first South Asian superhero.
I wanted him to be the opposite of most of the opportunities that I'd gotten and most of the opportunities that brown men have gotten in Hollywood. So usually either we play terrorists, I wanted him to be full of joy, the opposite of that, or we're nerds and I wanted him to be cool, or we're weak and I wanted him to be strong. So I just sort of was like, what is something that I haven't gotten to do that we don't usually get to do? Let's be the opposite of all that.
Between the heroics, we see the friendships, which the cast formed off-screen as well, most of them.
I don't think I was really expecting to come out of this with so many incredible friendships. I mean, I really got to know everyone so well.
Yeah, I made no friends on this movie.
Excuse me?
Apart from you. We became friends. We became friends.
Okay.
We've loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
And that is it for now. It is 30 days before Christmas. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13.68 sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andang mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Presidential anointment doesn't.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. 13.68 sa dial sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang Radyo Ronda dili sa Dakbayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sibiyahan na may galaon sa katawhan, andang mo serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Presidential anointment doesn't always get a recipient elected. It happened to every single chosen one since Fidel Ramos' Joe de Venecia in the 1998 elections. So now the question is, will President Duterte break the cycle by getting longtime right-hand man and now Senator Bongo elected as president? Good evening. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guests for tonight, political strategist Malu Tequia joining us via Zoom, and campaign advisor for Senator Ping Lacson, former Secretary Ronnie Puno. Good evening to you, Malu, and good evening, Sec Ronnie. Thank you very much for being here.
Good evening, Pia.
Let's begin with you, Secretary Ronnie Puno. Tell us the story again of the 1992 elections and how FDR won. Monching Mitra was chosen, hindi ba, by the LDP to be its standard bearer, and the administration of Cory Aquino was expected to support him. So what happened so that we can get a better appreciation of presidential anointments and how they affect the process?
I don't know what the internal developments are within the LDP at the time, but at some point, President Aquino decided to support President Ramos, who broke away from the party and formed his Lakas party.
Yes.
Actually, the bulk of the LDP remained with Speaker Mitra, although the people closest to President Aquino really started to help President Ramos. So it was a very rather short campaign, but very effective one. And I think that if we're talking about the power of presidents to help their designated successors, I think President Aquino was probably the biggest factor in making President Ramos win. Of course, President Ramos had his own popularity because he was an acknowledged hero of the EDSA revolution.
Yeah. And yung campaign EDSA 92, naalala ko?
Correct, yes. He capitalized on the fact that the people believed in him because of his performance during the EDSA revolution, and even as a cabinet minister during the early periods of President Aquino's term. So both the record in his long public service, plus the popularity because of EDSA, I think contributed to his victory. But of course, the help of President Aquino and their close allies were critical in his winning.
Okay, so it was the anointment by, well, at the time, still a popular president, Cory Aquino. And then, like you said, FDR's record and EDSA hero status. And then the other not so best kept secret was a Ronnie Puno.
No, actually those things get blown out of proportion. Actually, the candidate was a great candidate.
Yeah.
He was working with the machinery of a very popular sitting president. And I think those were the main factors. And there were 7 candidates, if you will remember.
Yes.
So you didn't really need to win, half of the electorate.
Just 23%.
Yeah, exactly. And that was probably in the reserve of votes that they already both had in any case.
And then as opposed to someone like Monching Mitra, a veteran politician, they even call him a traditional politician, a trapo, as opposed to a new face. Ganon?
Well, Speaker Mitra at the time had the support of all the congressmen, but of course, as the election came closer, and as the support of President Aquino towards President Ramos became more evident, I think a lot of the members of the LDP probably thought that, it would be in their interest and in their constituency's interest to go with the decision of President Aquino to support President Ramos.
Okay. Well, Malu Tequia, back in 1992, where were you at the time, and who were you with, and how did you view presidential anointments at that time? Malu?
I wasn't with any presidential candidate then. I was doing congressional races. But essentially, it was conventions during that time were very important.
Yes.
And you would see that after that LDP convention, when Speaker Mitra was proclaimed, everyone thought that would have been the candidate until Secretary Ramos bolted out, and it was a dramatic stance made by the Defense Secretary, and he was able to group together and put that party and effectively run the campaign. So my sense with endorsement essentially is you have to look at the approval rating of the person endorsing. Do they have the so-called what do you call this? The
Well, at the
tail,
time, Cory
the
Magic.
tail of the to hang on.
Yeah,
Oo,
coattails.
to hang on and really win, coattails based on the strength of the endorser. We've seen from that time on, the endorsers never really figured out after President Ramos until I guess, there has been no successful endorser
wala.
to convert their candidate into the winning column.
Okay. So talagang combination of factors. So ito, today, 2021, we're looking at the 2022 election. So we have President Duterte. He wants Bongo as his successor. And there's a saying that goes, and making it up by the way, no? Presidential anointments can only do so much. So, you know, you have a popular President Duterte. So, is it too simplistic to say dahil popular si Digong and he likes Bong, therefore those who like Digong will vote for Bong? We're going to ask our guests tonight, Ronnie Puno and Malu Tiquia, to answer that question when we come back. Politics as usual. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Politics as usual. Our guests still with us, political strategist Malu Tiquia and campaign advisor Ronnie Puno. Let's begin with Malu. So, Malu, that question, no? Because Digong, so people like Digong, and Digong likes Bong, so people will vote for whoever Digong likes. Not as simple as that, right?
Yeah, it's not that simple as that. For the basic reason, Senator Go came into our midst only in 2016. So that's like 5 years and 5 months being in the public realm. And it's not easy as just because you're the aide, everyone will follow the president. Yes, we have a very popular president, but it takes more than just being around and being active in the arena. You know, if you're going to look at tandems, the tandem of Lacson and Soto have all the experience, combined experience. When you pit them against Senator Go, medyo mahihirapan yun. And then there is no vice president. It's a very ludicrous situation where the administration doesn't have one ticket. There is no single ticket. And because of the way things have been dealt out, it would appear that the BBM Inday Sara ticket will be the push and pull against Ago without a vice president. So whether Inday Sara will accept being guest, or whether she will stick with BBM, that's the big question. But I think...
But that's gonna be weird if she's kung mag-guest candidate siya kay Bongo, ano yun? Tapos, candidate...
Diba, napakahirap napakahirap i-explain sa taong bayan. Kaya nga yung movement ng dalawa, si BBM at si Mayor Sara sa Tagum, nakita mo talagang... silang dalawa ang gumagalaw. Sa tingin ko, that would be a strategy, that it will be a tandem. They will move as a tandem, as everyone should, because it's going to be very hard to get a split ticket in 2022.
Yeah. Well, kanina sabi mo, di ba, experience, no? When Bongo says, and because he is the anointed of Rodrigo Duterte, when Bongo says, may experience ako because I had an up-close and personal view of, the presidency because I was by the president's side the whole time. Is that good enough? Is that going to be good enough? No.
No, for me, it's not, because it takes more than just that to be president. Especially, I have to remind your listeners, we need a leader who has been tested by time because we are going on a reboot. Yung ekonomiya is very important. And I'm sorry to say this to Senator Go, people are looking for more than just being aid. And what do we really know about Senator Go? That's my question.
Yeah. So in other words,
we know all
Digong cannot
these
rely on
other
his own
candidates.
Duterte cannot rely on his own popularity. But hindi ba the problem kasi is that the president daw was hoping that it would be Sara Duterte to run for president, and therefore, you know, and then nasira ang plano, so therefore ganito na yan. Anyway, well, we're talking about the presidential anointment. So in this case, Secretary Puno, so you have Digong anointing Bongo. So hindi transferable yung popularity ni presidente kay Bongo.
Well, as you said, no, wala naman na transfer na popularity from the very beginning except for President Aquino.
Yeah.
I had very many reasons for that. Now, the first reason, I guess, is it's very hard for a president to recommend somebody that is better than him. No? Kasi siyempre, presidente ka na. You've been ruling the country for 6 years. Sino naman ang maituturo mo na sabi mo, mas magaling sa akin yan? None, because nobody would have had the experience that you had. And as Malu says, experience is very important. No? For example, the experience, as she says, of Senator Lacson and Senator Soto, that is unparalleled anywhere. I mean, there's nobody else has that kind of an experience. No? So they don't really need endorsements from anybody. Their endorsement comes from their own performance itself. No, they have proven in everything that they have done that they have the wherewithal, the experience, the courage, and the discipline to be able to do what needs to be done
But
as president.
experience, because they're both senators. So, you know,
Yes.
what if Bongbong Marcos say, oh, I was a senator, I was a governor, I was a congressman?
Well,
That
that's
doesn't
true.
amount to
Then
experience.
you go down and look at whatever the experience and the performance of each one has been. No, I mean, where have they really been and what have they really done? And I guess that's where we need to go during this election. Not just analyze what moves they make and react to every next surprising move somebody makes. No, but we really have to sell our messages to the people. Convince the people that our programs and the experience of our candidates are really what's going to make a difference in their future.
Yeah.
So, Bongbong Marcos has, of course, had done a lot of things also in his career. But I guess, you know, if you compare with others, you're
with
going to
Ping
be able to
Lacson.
get a better decision on how
Ping
to...
Lacson, chief PNP. So he
Well,
ran an organization.
Senator Lacson has been a legislator for the longest time, and I know that he has a very intimate knowledge of everything that's going on in the country today. His knowledge about the issues in COVID, in national defense, in the lack of jobs, etc., is very detailed because he has been going through all of the legislation and budgets that have gone through Congress. It's very hard to do that. But when he was head of the Philippine National Police, I know because I was there at the time, the Philippine National Police experienced a rebirth, you know. And during that time, Senator Lacson implemented what he called a devolution of the funds, no?
Right. Bumaba ang pondo sa mga istasyon.
Ang pondo talaga. And that was the moral authority that he used to stop corruption in the ranks of the police.
Okay.
And I think everybody in the PNP is proud of the time when he was chief PNP. So I think if he brings that kind of leadership, that kind of dedication and sincerity to the presidency, our country can sleep well at night.
Okay, well, we're still talking about presidential anointment so that the country can sleep well at night. You know, it's so difficult to talk about 35 years of Philippine election history in a 30-minute program and to do this in like a minute and a half. But going to the break, I wanted to ask both you, Secretary Puno, and Malu, let's talk about, very quickly, you know, all the other presidential anointments that didn't go anywhere. So you had FDR himself, you know, anointing JDV, walang nangyari. Gloria for Gibo, walang nangyari. Noy Aquino for Mar in 2016, wala rin nangyari. Ano yung problema dito in a brief and concise manner as possible that you can explain, Secretary Ronnie?
Well, for one thing, one of the more prevalent attitudes when we come into a presidential election is people normally want change. Okay, it's very rare
Not more of the same.
It's very rare that you will see people wanting more of the same. Most of the time, they will look for change, because during the presidency of the existing president, you know, a lot of things would have happened, and some good, some not so good. But people will remember the not so good, because the good stuff they expect and they hope for, because you have promised it to them in any case. But the bad things are a surprise to everyone. So they will want some change. And I think in all the elections that we have had, that's probably the biggest thing I have noticed, that people want change. And so if you are going to be selling a message that you will continue what has been happening, so what does that tell the people? You will continue with the lockdowns, you will continue with the loss of jobs, you will, of course not.
Yeah.
But so if this happened during your time, how are you now going to tell people, I'm suggesting this guy because he's going to change things around? So people will just not believe that message.
Interesting. People want change, but also maybe that's also why the presidential anointment worked only once. So para bang kung FVR, ang JDV is FVR 2.0, Gloria Arroyo Gibo, Gloria 2.0, and so on and so forth. Malu, Tiki, I'm going to ask you to answer the question when we come back. We just need to take a very quick break. More from our guests when we return. This is Politics as Usual. On our final stretch. This is Politics as Usual. Political strategist Malu Tiquia joining us via Zoom, and Ronnie Puno here in the studio. Malu, your response to that question earlier before the break. Oops. Audio. Naka-mute ka ba?
I'm sorry.
Ayan,
In this election, Pia, there are two continuity candidates. One is someone who is for the same, which is Senator Go, and the other is actually the daughter, Duterte, who wants to stand on her own worth. So if you're going to look at continuity, these are two poles apart. And unfortunately for Senator Go, there's the name of the Duterte. So that in itself is a very strong driver for the outcome, at least at the vice presidential level. At the presidential level, you will have Senator Go will have to stand on his own. It cannot be that the president will always be there. He will always be talking and doing the defense for Senator Go. Unless we are electing Duterte 2.0, which is actually the PRRD under a different guy. I don't think the country is ready for that. What we are seeing now is that the country is ready for a Marcos. Those are pre-campaign surveys. Things might change during the campaign period. And the reason why I always say, I look at the Lacson-Soto tandem as the dark horse because they have the capability to come from behind. I mean, if the president is saying, let's look for a strong president, sino yun? I mean, when you say he's weak, that is weak. So who's the strongest? Diba? If you scale through the list, it would appear yung dalawang ready on day one is apparently that tandem. Now, it's another thing to climb from where they are right now to the leader of the pack. And that, I think Secretary Puno knows that. But that's a challenge to that team. I'm not saying that I am so surprised at the majority rankings, ratings of the two at pre-campaign level. But things will change once we hit February. And I think in the last 48 days, 50 days, that tandem has remained quiet and was just going through and reaching out to people.
So
now that is campaigning.
In a way, the topic of the show, presidential anointments, we can just throw it right out the window because it's not going to be a factor, the way things go. But anyway, okay, so we have enough.
Pia, just one note.
Sige.
Just one note on that. I mean, the president will be with Senator Go. I mean, is that the reason why he's running for the Senate? So that when they go around, they're both together? Come on. Well, you're ending your administration on a high note, but here is an active player in the political scene. How do you now put together your legacy? How do you ensure there's an honest, orderly, peaceful election? How do you ensure the transition? These things have to be thought out carefully simply because there's so many things that this administration has done. So you're going to put that all, down the sink.
Ang gulo. Okay, final words na. Malu, final words ka muna, and then we'll give the final words to Secretary Ronnie. Sige. We have 4 minutes. Go ahead.
So I think to the voters, patuloy kayong maging mapanuri. Hindi pa ho tapos ang halalan. Lahat na nakikita nating ratings sa surveys, those are pre-campaign ratings. In 2016, we saw someone coming from far behind and leading the pack and ultimately winning. So let us be conscious of that and let us look at the platforms. Tigilan na natin yung personality-driven at tirahan. Tingnan natin yung plataforma kasi ang 2022, mahalagang makabangon tayo.
That's true. Thank you, Malu Tiquia. Secretary Ronnie Puno.
Yeah, thank you. Well, actually, I think it's important for everyone to realize where we are today. We are in crisis. We have had 2 of the most difficult years our country has ever gone through. School has not yet even normalized. So many people, millions have lost their jobs. We have to think very carefully about who we are going to look to lead us through all of these problems. And I think experience is going to be a major factor in how we climb ourselves out of this crisis that we face. And I think that strength of character, honesty, and really good public service is what's going to carry this country forward. And I think that when people think about our candidates, they should remember all of this and think that and be convinced that this is not an ordinary choice we're making now. This is the most important choice of a president that we will be making in the past decades.
And a presidential anointment will not
I don't think the
anymore.
presidential anointment is going to be relevant at all in this coming presidential election.
Yun ang final word. Thank you very much for joining us, political strategist Malu Tiquia. Malu, thank you so much. I'll see you again. And Secretary Ronnie Puno. Sir, thank you very much for being here. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here at this table on the show, your weekly political appointment fix. Politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO.